ToplessRobot.com presents...
You're listening to Animated Opinions, the only podcast that wants a Danny DeVito narrated version of the Rosetta Stone. I'm Melanie.
I'm Emily.
And today, we'll be talking about a movie that doesn't have as much Danny DeVito in it as I want, The Lorax.
I honestly think that there is no movie that has the amount of Danny DeVito I want.
No, it's very true. Also, welcome to Season 3! Air horn noise, party! Yeah, what's up? For this season, we got a very special theme. It's all...
Beep! Oh, I thought we were going to try and make them guess.
Oh, shit. Hey,
we'll edit it out.
Yeah, we'll fix it in post.
The theme is beep!
Yes. Figure out the theme and win our Twitter prize. What's the Twitter prize, you ask? Follow us on Twitter, guess the theme correctly, and find out.
All right. Now we got to come up with a fucking prize.
Don't tell them that we don't know the prize either.
Well, people got to guess it, and it's episode fucking 1.
Yeah.
And we do the fucking Lorax.
What if the theme was just the Lorax? We're watching the Lorax every week for 10 weeks and trying not to fucking kill each other.
Honestly, yeah, no, I remember the Lorax fondly, but like doing research into the Lorax and then discovering the fact that it's just awful left-wing environmentalist propaganda indoctrinating young audiences to the far left liberal agenda was just shocking.
I will say the staunch anti-capitalism messages of this film that are like wedged in every now and then are genuinely surprising, especially for Illumination Pictures.
They aren't wedged in. They are taken and shoved down your captive throat.
Well, it's weird because the movie will be like stupid antics for 15 minutes or a very long chase sequence. This movie has 4 separate chase sequences in it. They're very clearly padding for time. But then they'll have a really good anti-capitalism joke or song or something. And you're like, oh, I guess the people making this cared briefly and then went back to making the Minions-esque antics with the fish.
I don't quite know what happened here, because the idea for the film, we'll circle back around to budget and bullshit and things, but the idea for this film was actually initiated by Audrey Geisel, Dr. Seuss's wife.
Oh, because, so she had canceled any more live-action adaptations of the Dr. Seuss books after the Mike Myers Cat in the Hat film, which I'm sure you've seen. I've seen it. I hated it. It was real bad. She hated it so much that she said, no one's making another movie of my husband's books in live action. Get out of my face.
I've actually never seen that movie. I've only heard it talked about on We Hate Movies. The other podcast about movies. One of
that one's not about animated movies like
sometimes they do.
Special.
They do. I forget what they call their segment.
Animation Damnation.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is a Patreon-only segment. Y'all are getting this for free. We do it for no money. And for all 10 of you listeners.
Yeah,
yes, we counted.
10.
All 10.
Yeah, apparently Geisel had, and I'm assuming it's Geisel, I've never heard it pronounced. She had an established partnership with Chris Meledandri, who is the producer of the film, from when they collaborated on Horton Hears a Who. And I actually kind of thought that Horton Hears a Who was done by the same studio, but it wasn't. That was done by like Blue Sky, I think, and 20th Century Fox. And Meledandri left 20th Century Fox to found his own studio, which is Illumination. And apparently Audrey Geisel approached Meledandri when he launched Illumination and was like, I want to do the Lorax as an animated movie. And Meledandri was just like, yeah, sure, let's do it.
Oh, that actually explains a lot about this movie in the sense that it has some of the Illumination hallmarks, but also doesn't. You can tell that it's from their earlier days, pre the Minions are the things that make the most money for us, so let's just make a bunch of movies with that same weirdly generic appeal. God.
So Illumination has a very producer-driven approach, and Chris Meledandri has tight control over casting and writing and direction of his movies, even though, and I'll dig into this a little bit more, Illumination is owned by NBC, which is part of Comcast. So the fact that Illumination, as part of their deal, was able to maintain like full creative control over what they make is interesting. But it's very much producer driven. Like, creative control was Chris Meledandri. Like, that, he is responsible for this.
I would argue that somewhere deep within Illumination, there is a formula for what kind of film to make, where the plot beats go, how often you should be having comedic moments, because all of the Illumination films, if you watched them back to back, feel very factory made. Even this one feels like it is a lot of pieces stitched together specifically to be marketable.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's pretty much any movie, but I feel like Illumination does it a little bit worse.
They do, not even, I would argue, better because it's so efficient. Did you see Sing, which is another Illumination film?
No.
Any one of their movies, really, you can look at and go, oh, okay, I can see where you may have focus tested some elements of this plot and you found late game it didn't work, so you just modded it a little bit. It's really, the films are very clearly written to get you from point A to point B in a plot. What are you doing?
Sorry, I was watering my plant. And now there are sirens.
We're recording a fucking podcast. Can your plant not wait?
No, it really can't. My roommate's cat has been eating it, and it needs help. The Lorax. So yeah, real quick about the Lorax. After it came out, there were a lot of articles, I'm not joking, about it being propaganda indoctrinating children to the liberal agenda. That is not a fucking joke. There are articles written about this. The Lorax, despite that press, was an immediate hit. It did not receive stellar critical reviews, but it did make $348 million on its $70 million budget. And at the time, that put the Lorax at number 8 on the list of all-time biggest openings for an animated film and the 4th best for a non-animated sequel.
Wow.
Yeah. I think it's because it has Danny DeVito.
Oh, man. Danny DeVito nails it in this movie, but I think the fact that this movie exists is the reason he's not voicing Detective Pikachu, which I'm still broken up about.
I heard that he didn't want to voice Detective Pikachu because they wouldn't let Pikachu say fuck.
You know?
I am, in fact, making that up, but I want to spread that rumor.
You know, if it was because they didn't let Pikachu say fuck and smoke a cigarette for the whole movie, that's fine.
Basically, what?
On the note of Danny DeVito, he reprised this role of the Lorax in 5 languages, including English, Spanish, Italian, German, and Russian.
Danny DeVito is a god.
Does he know all those languages? Did he do it phonetically? I have so many questions.
I assume it was phonetic. I love Danny DeVito, and I'm sure he's a very intelligent human being, but I also doubt that he speaks those languages.
That's fair.
To Wikipedia! I'm kidding. This version of the Lorax is actually the second version. Excuse me, I had to burp. It's actually the second adaptation of the book, following the I am so fucking sorry. This film was the second adaptation of The Lorax, following the 1972 animated television special. And I actually vaguely remember that version, obviously not from 72, but I think I've seen it before. And this current version of The Lorax by Illumination builds on the book by deciding to expand on the story of the Lorax and Ted, who is the previously unnamed boy who once visited the Onceler.
Yes.
So because they've just added more story, there is a lot that happens in this film's 86-minute runtime, So I guess we just kind of have to dive right in now.
Yeah, let's make it happen. So, the plot begins with Ted Wiggins, voiced by a post-High School Musical pre-whatever the fuck he's doing now, Zac Efron.
Ted Bundy.
Ted Wiggins.
Oh, no.
A 12-year-old boy who lives in Thneedville. Oh, I'm going to have to say Thneed a lot. That is a not fun word to say.
I love it.
A 12-year-old boy who lives in Thneedville, a walled city that, aside from the human citizens, is completely artificial. Everything is made of plastic, metal, or synthetics with no living plants. Ted has a crush on local environmentalist Audrey, who wants to see a real tree more than anything in the world, so he decides to find one in order to impress her. His energetic Granny Norma secretly tells Ted the legend of the Onceler, who will tell anyone about the trees if they bring him 15 cents, a nail, and the shell of a great-great-great-grandfather snail. When Ted leaves Thneedville in search of the Onceler, who's voiced by Ed Helms, he discovers that the outside world is a contaminated, empty, barren wasteland.
Yeah.
This movie opens for about 30 seconds, and it's cool, or not cool, but it's happening, and then they're singing, and they're just singing about, we're in Thneedville, hooray, and I wanted to die.
So I actually forgot this was a musical until I got your text of, there's fucking singing in this, isn't there? And I was actually out somewhere, like I was with other people, and I looked at my phone and I saw that, and I had to explain why I was doubled over laughing at the thought of you just hearing those first couple notes and just like immediately, fuck everybody in LA, and immediately just like wanting to off yourself.
Oh, it was just me yelling, God damn it, at the TV because I did not want to sit through a musical. But here I am, sitting in the musical. Also, we're going to get this out of the way right now. For a movie that's staunchly anti-capitalist and pro-environment, here's a non-complete list of the brand deals that the Lorax had. HP Computers, IHOP, Mazda, Hilton, and Whole Foods.
I mean, you gotta, like, you gotta make money. I don't know. Yeah, you could say that The Lorax is a film made by a large entertainment company under the ownership of a larger company that's concerned with turning a profit, but that kind of sounds a little harsh. A little bit harsh for The Lorax, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. I think being harsh is important. On the voice actors, Zac Efron sounds old. He doesn't sound like how the 12-year-old that Ted's supposed to be. And then Audrey is tall and looks like she's 17 and just way too old for Ted to like even be realistically crushing on. I hate this like Dipper Wendy dynamic that every cartoon seems to have now.
So I honestly and Audrey was Taylor Swift, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't really have any complaints about the voice acting in this movie. Like, everybody's doing a good job, but they're just reading lines. Like, I would say there's no acting happening here outside of maybe Ed Helms occasionally and Danny DeVito.
That is fair.
Yeah.
On the characters, I really liked the Seuss human designs and the way that they kind of rounded it off and made it look a little more traditional mid-2010s CG.
Yeah.
The look is still Seussian, but it's upgraded for a CG movie in a good way.
There's something about the designs that kind of threw me off. And I see where you're coming from. And Illumination knows their style and they stick with it. Like, if you were to put but like the main characters from Illumination films side by side, you could definitely see the style. Like, it's not like they all look exactly the same, but you can definitely see the studio within that. Like, if it's the same thing, if you put DreamWorks characters together, you're like, yep, those are DreamWorks characters. You put Disney characters together, you're like, yep, those are Disney characters. It makes sense. And like Leica, it's just like, yep, those are all Leica films. Everybody has a style and they know what they're doing and it makes money. Oh, fuck. Yeah, I forgot Betty White was in this.
Yeah, she's the grandma, right?
Yeah.
And a great character. Funky grandma. Love it.
Did you have any issues with your lip sync?
No, I didn't. I don't know that
I was watching the lip sync really closely, and it felt like it was slightly off. And it didn't seem to be how I was watching it, because there were a couple different attempts made, but it seemed to be the animation.
Maybe whatever copy of it that was floating around wasn't an original, because I watched it, actually, I rented it for $4 because I was too lazy to figure out how to get it otherwise, and it seemed fine to me.
Yeah, there's just something about it. I definitely, like I said, I tried it a couple times and I just could not.
You mentioned Thneedville was LA. I thought Thneedville looked like San Francisco.
I mean, I think I just said that Thneedville is LA because I was in my bed. I watched this movie last night. I was in bed and I have just moved to a new place that I absolutely fucking hate. And the streets are filthy and the air is disgusting. And LA is just a layer of smog and grossness and grit. And like, yeah, I felt like it was kind of a dig at not just LA, or just maybe not even LA. It just felt like a dig at populated cities.
Definitely. There was something about the design with all the houses on like hills and stuff that read to me as very, we've been to San Francisco and we think it's a living nightmare.
It's very Seussian.
Yeah.
Like it just looks like a Dr. Seuss movie.
Again, I appreciate the fact that they clearly did care about maintaining the style of Dr. Seuss in a lot of the elements of the movie, but it makes the parts where they didn't really jarring.
Yeah. Yeah. LA. And then I provided you an image that, would you describe this for our listeners?
So this image is an edit of the original poster for Need for Speed, except for it is instead replaced with the Onceler driving the car and the Lorax looking grimly in the rearview mirror with the new title, Need for Thneed.
I think about this image on a daily basis. Sometimes when I am sad, I quietly whisper, I have a need for Thneed. And my roommates just pause for a minute and then go, Emily, what the fuck? So that's a little bit about how sad my life is. And
it's okay.
Then we dive into the Lorax. Well, kind of. We get more into the plot of the Lorax that people are familiar with. Like, we don't open this movie on familiar fucking characters. We open it with Ted and Audrey. And once Ted leaves city limits, that's where we get to the traditional story. Because once Ted finds the Onceler agrees to tell him about trees on the condition that he listen to the story over multiple visits, which seems inconvenient in my opinion, but I guess it does show commitment. Ted agrees, but on his next trip, he encounters the greedy mayor of Thneedville, Aloysius O'Hare. I swear that name is Aloysius, but yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Aloysius. It's weird to see written down, guys. I'm sorry. And O'Hare is the proprietor of a company that sells bottled oxygen, aka fresh air, to Thneedville residents. O'Hare explains to Ted that trees produce oxygen free of charge, and therefore he considers them and or people talking about them a threat to his business. After revealing that he has security camera eyes all over the city, O'Hare pressures Ted to stay in town. However, Ted continues to sneak out of O'Hare's sight with his grandmother's encouragement and learns more about tree history.
Hooray! Trees history.
Yeah, so this politician, this greedy, disgusting politician having a business that he basically owns this city is what is being said. Like these people are his subjects. He is their king and he forces them into their level of subjugation.
This is a really bland part of the movie. The parts of the movie that take place in modern day Ted life are so boring and one note.
Yeah, they're just not exciting at all. And I remember, oh man, I'm ready for this bit. When this movie came out, people on the internet, and I feel like I just was not big on the internet at this time. Like, I think this was mid-college for me.
This was a Tumblr thing.
This was a Tumblr thing. I wasn't huge on Tumblr at the time, and we were in school when this came out, like college. So I didn't see it, and I had no money to go see it. I had nothing. So I just wasn't big into the Lorax fandom. But when this movie came out, people were like, no one is fuckable but the Onceler. So there's a strange abundance of fan fiction where the Onceler fucks the Onceler. And I just wanted to remind you of that before we moved on from old Onceler to young Onceler in these flashback story scenes.
It's true. It's very true. I talk about that a little more later.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Aloysius made me realize that I like how they did the hair in this movie. They just like gave it a uniform texture and made it actually move. It was a good call.
So knowing a little bit more about Illumination and their budget and we'll get into this. The way that hair is done makes a lot of sense because it's cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, hair is hard anyway, but this is like the cheap version of hair.
Yeah, but it's a cheap version of hair that's stylized, and so like it works.
It's a style. Yeah. It works. They know how to use it. They know how to make it look decent. The hair, I didn't truly care, but I super wanted to rub my face all over a Thneed.
Oh my god, yes!
Like I needed to touch it.
Oh yeah, the Thneed and the truffle trees.
Fuck yeah! That's what I meant. I wanted to rub my face on a truffle tree. The Thneed is more like a cashmere sweater looking thing. Yeah. But the truffle trees look so soft. Like they look softer than clouds or cotton candy. And holy shit, like that is a texture.
Oh yeah.
It's so nice.
I really wanted the barren world to be more shocking. Like, it was kind of dead, but I really wanted the world to seem messed up. Like, it seemed like it was dark out. I don't know.
Yeah, like in Fury Road where they drive through that gross swamp area that used to be the green place, and there's the people on stilts in the crow costumes.
Exactly.
Give me fucking that, please.
That level of terror for the children.
Yeah, like, let's fuck up some kids. Let's make this Dark Crystal motherfucker.
At this point, Ted is riding his little motorcycle out of Thneedville and into Onceler Land, and it's a very long sequence, and it had me legitimately looking at how much time they were killing.
Yeah, I honestly just pave paradise and put up a fucking parking lot already. Let's go.
Thanks, Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah, I'm Jimmy Buffett now.
So here's the majority of this movie, or at least what everyone came for. Over Ted's various visits, the Onceler recounts the story that when he was a young man, he departed his family to find good material for his Thneed invention and make a business. The Onceler meets the guardian of the forest, the Lorax, voiced by Danny DeVito, after cutting down a truffle tree in a lush truffle tree forest valley. The Lorax urges the Onceler to leave the forest, but the Onceler refuses. Eventually, the Onceler promises not to chop another tree down, and the two begin a friendship of sorts. Then the young businessman's Thneed invention becomes a major success, and the Onceler's family arrives to participate in the business. At first, keeping his promise, the Onceler continues Thneed production by harvesting the truffle tree Fuck! Let me redo that sentence. I suck.
It gets hard, man. Once you say the word Thneed a couple times.
Thneed. At first, keeping his promise, the Onceler continues Thneed production by harvesting the truffle tree truffle tree.
Do you want me to do this? No, you haven't even made it halfway through. The Onceler meets the guardian of the forest, the Lorax, voiced by Danny DeVito, after cutting down a truffle tree in a lush truffle tree forest valley.
No, I'm already at first keeping his promise. The Onceler continues just read this. Just fucking read
At first
this
keeping his
paragraph.
promise, the Onceler continues Thneed production by harvesting the truffula tree tufts in a slow but sustainable manner. You want me to finish it off?
Yeah.
I do like truffula tree tufts. That's a good one. However, the Onceler's greed and lazy relatives soon convince him to resume chopping down the trees. Over time, the Onceler's deforestation spirals into a mass overproduction. It does not seem to me that, like, I did not see it as overproduction. I just saw it as normal production at the loss of the truffula trees.
See, I don't get that, though, because it takes just as much time to harvest the truffula trees once you've cut them down.
Circling back around, Danny DeVito declined to audition for the role of Detective Pikachu, commenting that he was unfamiliar with the popular franchise.
Bullshit, Danny DeVito.
I also I have found no indication that he speaks all those languages.
Oh, boy.
Sorry.
All right. Damn, who doesn't want to fuck this young, sexy Onceler?
According to all that fanfic, like I said, the Onceler wants to fuck the Onceler.
He's playing the guitar and he's wearing a fedora. Fuck me now, daddy.
There was something about the scene where the Onceler goes into the Truffula Tree Valley and he's kind of dancing around and he's got the animals like singing a chorus of a song with him. And there was something about him dancing and the music in that moment that reminded me weirdly of Jack Skellington.
Yeah, it's his proportions, I think. He is the same.
Yep, that'll do it.
I feel you. And now, a brief break from our podcast to read you some Onceler fanfiction. Particularly, this one ships the Onceler and you, the listener.
Oh my god. I was like, wait, I want to find some. You start that. I'm going to find some.
What's wrong? The Onceler said, waking up from his sleep because of your cries.
No.
He sat up from the side of his bed where you two shared your slumber. Did you have a nightmare? You had your knees to your chest.
Wait, pause. Did you find this on fanfiction.net or are you on...
Yes, I'm on fanfiction.net.
Okay, I needed to know what site we were using.
You got to interrupt my dramatic read of the Onceler.
It was important. I didn't want to be using a different fanfiction site than you. Sorry. Continue.
Oh, you nodded as he gently patted your back with his left hand, and afterwards pushed your hair behind your ear with the same one. The barbalaloots were gathered around the window outside, and some around the bed too, because they too heard you scream. What was it about? You kept your face covered. I dreamed that we weren't together. You left me by myself, and you said you hated me. Hey, 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 he said, cutting you off. He pulled you close to him and wrapped his arms around you. It was only a nightmare. He ran his fingers through your hair. Don't you ever think that I would hate you. Still crying a bit, you said. But it felt so real. Look at me, he said, lifting up your chin. You looked up at him with your eyes that were still filled and flowing with salty tears. He pointed to a pink truffula tree that was standing much more proudly than the others, barbalaloots sleeping underneath it. A carving in the tree's bark was a heart with an arrow stabbed through it, and inside the heart it said, your name and Onceler. As long as that tree is still standing to remind us of what we're fighting for, then I don't see a reason not to keep our relationship going. I would like to just pause for a moment to point out he carved some shit in a tree, which would definitely not be okay with the Lorax. What are you fighting for? Several questions about this already, and we are only in chapter 1 of 2. Damn, I was really hoping this one would get a lot longer.
This one has 19 chapters.
Oh, hey, well, bring us your 19 chapters, please.
No, that's a bad one. This one's How to Train Your Dragon Brave Lorax crossover. Oh god, this one is smut. This one, here's the plot summary. By the magic of the Lorax and nature itself, there were always two Oncelers. One was a monster destroying Truffula Valley with his needs, and the other tried to prevent it at every step, only to become corrupted and broken instead. Real quick, what I have noticed in searching through these fan fictions is that to get around the fact that it's just the Onceler, they use his like businessman alternate persona when he wears that green trench coat, and they call him the Greedler.
Yes.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yes.
Oh no. Oh my god, I can't read that. What is this?
You can't or you won't, Emily.
I won't. No one deserves this.
Our listeners deserve only the worst of the best and the best of the worst. That's why you're here, right? Agree with me, listener.
Oh god, I'm trying to find something that's not horrifying.
This
is a Black Butler Dr. Seuss crossover.
Excuse me,
The
what?
Onceler finds... No, it's rated M.
For mature?
Oh god, there's weird M-preg in it. I'm scared. Fanfiction's scary. The Onceler finds himself a new man in the past, but how will that make the Lorax feel in the present? Inuyasha and Dr. Seuss crossover series.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
No.
When the Onceler finds himself at a loss for a jingle for his need, an unexpected guest shows up to show him that inspiration may come easier than he once thought. I'm picking this one.
Here we go, folks.
All right. Who the fuck is Melvin?
I don't know.
We literally start out, Melvin, be honest. What do you think of my jingle? The Onceler was laying lazily against his wagon, aimlessly finger-picking on his guitar. He ran his index finger up and down the worn-out fretboard, sighing dramatically. He pried himself off the ground and into an upright position, which was quickly lost to a much easier-to-maintain hunching pose. The warm afternoon air had a mysterious way of turning him into a sluggish drone. I just don't feel this one, you know? When I play it, I don't feel the neediness in the song. It just doesn't speak to me. The exasperated young male stood up with an over-exaggerated sigh and sulked over to his large tent. He had had enough musical brainstorming for one day. What's the point anyway, he thought, when all of my ideas are useless? With a defeated air, the Onceler gripped the handle of the door and proceeded to enter his temporary abode. All he wanted to do was relax. Creating a catchy gimmick was simply too much work. He approached his tiny cot and found himself flopping down face first, like a limp fish. This is just so fucking long.
Oh, God.
Oh, and the Onceler comes back. This is the Greedler, I think, is the guy.
Okay.
Because it's the Onceler, but he's... Yep, okay. Quick summary, the Onceler wakes up and sees himself, but wearing green, and then...
Are you dead?
Oh no. They're fucking. It doesn't seem consensual and I'm scared. I don't like the Lorax anymore.
Oh, no. Would you like to get back to the movie and step back out of the world of scary fanfiction?
There's 2 chapters.
Okay.
I'm closing it now.
Hey, let's talk
Actually,
about the designs
I'm sending
of the
it to
fish.
you. You can fucking deal with this later, because if I had to see it, so do fucking you.
Great. I will suffer for this podcast. I love you, the listener, and you can write a big old fanfic about that.
The only fanfic I love is the one where Snape hooks up with Jesus.
God, you already read that on air. Or
Did
read it
I?
to me.
I read it to you. I didn't read it on air because we haven't seen anything where I would read the Snape Jesus fanfiction.
Let's get back to the film. The fish designs are very Seussian, but the rest of the animals look like garbage.
Mm-hmm. They really, really, really do. Actually, I think this is the only Illumination movie I've seen outside of the first Despicable Me.
Really?
Yeah.
You haven't even seen Minions?
No.
No, I'll put that on the list.
No.
Oh, yeah.
I thought we were friends.
We're not.
Oh,
you made me watch Izzy's Way Home. I'll never forgive you.
Hey, Izzy's Way Home is like almost food fight.
God, okay. Also, all caps note from me, does he really fucking just have this guitar so he can start a song?
The answer is yes.
Oh, yeah. This movie is thin on everything. Like, it's just moving along.
Oh my god. Okay, so the Lorax appears magically. There's a bolt of lightning and a big storm that happens. I have to say this because I literally just thought of it, because I wrote down I like how the tree stump just kind of shits out the Lorax. I changed my mind about that wording. The Lorax is like ejaculated from the tree stump.
He totally is. It is
that
good.
Tree stump has a tree stump-esque orgasm, and just magically the Lorax is birthed from the tree.
Oh, yeah. I go back on the bears for a minute.
Yep.
The fur on the bears looks like shit, and they're basically all the same model with minor size and scale variations. And they have weird, like, they have so many teeth, and they're all just like a mouth guard kind of teeth.
They're just not, the overall design is just not appealing.
Illumination does not give a single fuck about telling a story with more than 3 plot points, do they?
No. I've only ever seen the first Despicable Me, so I can't really, like, speak to that.
Here's a note from me. I wanted to get high and watch Trolls tonight. I'm very clearly mad about that.
I remembered this movie being softer. Like, you mentioned Trolls. The entirety of the Trolls movie is soft. Everything is soft felt texture. And I love it and want to rub my face all over it.
I think Trolls set the bar way too high for every other animated movie to look like I want to go inside there and just squash everything and pet it.
Trolls 2, 2020.
Oh, God. I'm so excited. The Lorax is ugly with this human-ass nose.
No. I love the Lorax. I think it's also because it's Danny DeVito. Yeah, the Lorax is, I have the note, I love the Lorax, this stupid fucking orange shithead. And the movie is very, very simple. Like, every plot point you know is going to be very easily resolved. You know exactly how everything's going to play out. It's not just because that this movie's been done before and there's a book. It is simple as hell.
It is very simple.
Oh, also, I think Ted's mom fucked the Onceler. Because Ted looks a lot like the Onceler.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Ted's dad is anywhere in this fucking movie.
No, so I think that's why Ted's mom doesn't want him to think about trees or go out and find them, because she wanted to do that, and then she ended up fucking this dude, the Onceler, and Ted is his child, and she does not want them to meet.
She shouldn't anyway, because the Onceler is a currently broke-ass motherfucker who ruined the world.
That's fair.
Flushed with wealth, the Onceler rationalizes his short-sighted needs into arrogant self-righteousness, and the Lorax's helpless protests do not stop him. The Onceler pollutes the sky, river, and landscape until the very last truffula tree falls. With no further chance of business, he's left broken, and his money-broke mother disowns him. With the region uninhabitable because of the pollution and deforestation from his business, the Lorax sends the animals off to find a new place to live before the Onceler sees him depart into the sky, leaving only a stone-cut word: unless. Distraught and ruined, the Onceler becomes a recluse.
There's also a scene cut in here about Ted and O'Hare. Yeah. I have blah, 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 I'm evil, 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 and small, small, small. O'Hare, there's a moment, instead of just being like lifted into his car because O'Hare is a tiny little evil man, he walks up the goon's hands rather than be lifted. So like he's taking actual steps and they're just kind of elevating their hands like they are stairs. And I thought that was really funny.
It is pretty funny. Another Illumination thing where they very much know how to tell a good visual gag, especially if it involves small and big, which is, I feel like, one of the easiest cornerstones of visual gags is thing is small, thing is big, haha. So
Disney couldn't fucking get their heads around it, and that's why they canceled Gigantic.
Gigantic would have been such an easy one. Oh my god.
Sorry, I had to blow my nose.
I know you did. I heard it.
I know. And nobody else will, because I'm going to cut out the noise, but keep the dialogue.
Of course.
That would be hilarious.
This plot summary doesn't even cover these shitty intercut wraparound segments. It's more the plot with Ted and Aloysius and Aubrey is more or less the A plot, and I hate it because the Onceler plot with the Lorax takes only maybe 30 minutes of this movie, and 10 of those are him in a bed floating down a river, which did not even get covered in this plot summary because it didn't matter.
Yeah, the Lorax tries to yeet Ted. Not Ted. Shit. The Lorax tries to yeet Ted over. Fuck! The Onceler. The Lorax tries to yeet the Onceler off a goddamn fucking waterfall. And he's like, I didn't mean you any harm. All I did was an attempted murder. And you're like, no! You can't just apologize even if you saved him. You fucking tried to yeet his ass off a waterfall. Also, I looked away for like this entire scene. Like I was there for the beginning of it where the Lorax is like, oh no, there's a waterfall. And then when they save him and the Onceler is like, rude. How dare you try that? Like, he's not even that pissed about it. Yeah, I was like, someone just this little tiny Danny DeVito creature just trying to fucking murder. Like, I love Danny DeVito. But if Danny DeVito tried to fucking murder me, I'd be pissed about it.
I don't know.
What's up, Danny DeVito? I'm sure you don't listen to this podcast, but please don't murder me. I'd be very upset.
You can murder me, Daddy DeVito.
No, let's not.
Step on me, Daddy DeVito.
I don't think that he could. He is very small.
I know. That's why it would be fun.
Because he has Fairbanks disease. He can't be blamed for his smallness.
I did not know that. I just assumed he was a naturally small dude. Interesting.
No, he is diseased.
Aw.
Which is the worst way to say it. No, Danny DeVito has a medical condition that affects his growth.
Interesting.
Yay!
Again, did not know. Just assumed. Huh.
Wow. I know a weird amount of Danny DeVito facts. It's okay.
Nothing is happening in this movie. There's
no, that's why we're not talking about it. Like I said, I looked away for a few minutes. Yeah, and then we think about Lorax fanfiction a little bit more.
Yeah, this episode is rated M for mature because I was thinking about boning the Lorax.
I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then I was thinking about how the water texture is not very good. Trademark, trademark, trademark.
So, water in general is hard, and knowing a little bit more about the cost-cutting nature of illumination, it makes sense that the water isn't very good.
Yeah. If you want to do you want to save that for the end, or would you like to get into the style and how it was affected by no money?
We'll get into that a little bit better, because I just real quick want to drop this line from the Onceler. Sleeping is the body's way of telling other people to go away. I was like, hell yeah. All I have to do is go to sleep and people will leave me alone. Like, it doesn't work that way, but I wish it did.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I think if I were a child, I would enjoy this kind of empty shell of a movie. Because it's loud, it's got colors, it's not too offensive or annoying.
Yeah, I think if I had seen this earlier, maybe I hadn't seen this movie before. Like, I've seen parts of it for sure. I don't know. I can't remember if I've seen the Lorax in full before this, but I think I remember it fondly. But I think I would have enjoyed it better if I did not have my animation background. Which, to be fair, I would enjoy a lot of things better if I didn't have my animation VFX background.
That's a good point. Meanwhile, as someone who has a film and screenwriting background, I'm just sitting here angry that we're killing so much time around the only part of the plot that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, we're just distinctly killing time surrounding the Lorax's story because they couldn't stretch it out any fucking further.
Yeah, it's not good. Yeah. You keep mentioning the sectioned hair. And I have mixed feelings about it because it's easy is what I have to say about sectioned hair. It's easier to animate. You don't have to run like expensive simulations on it. You're not doing like hair. You get away with modeling it and grooming it into those tufts. It's not my particular favorite in all situations, and it's fine when it's done correctly. Like, this movie handles it really, really well. DreamWorks handles it really, really well, because when I think about like clumpy sectioned hair like this, I think about DreamWorks movies. Even in films that had like a more air quotes real look to them, like Rise of the Guardians, the hair was still, the hair was what threw me off in that movie, actually, because in all of their other movies, everything's kind of cartoony, but that weird, almost like realistic lean, but with the clumpy sectioned hair, I was like, oh, okay. And like, that's what I think about when I think of sectioned hair. But a lot of studios seem to do it just because it is easier to handle, and it's a style choice, and it's a good style choice in my opinion. It just has to be done correctly.
That's fair.
Yeah, and I had given up. It's been a rough 2019 for me, and I've just kind of given up on feeling happy ever again. So I was just kind of here for the soft truffle trees, and then once they were all cut down, I was like, well, I don't need to be here anymore.
My angry note on that is just cutting the trees doesn't save any time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my favorite parts of this movie can be summarized by any crowd animation where they're dancing, but it's the lowest level of dancing where they're just step touching.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. Step touching down the hill. And that's animation that you can apply to like literally any character model. And I think they cut a couple corners that way, but
the crowd shots, especially during the songs, you can tell that no one knew what they were doing and that there wasn't enough storyboarding to make the choreography understandable.
Step, touch, step, touch, step, touch.
So it was very clearly somebody filling in the holes, like, I really don't know what's supposed to go here. I'll do my best.
Yeah. Ooh, a pigeon. Sorry, a bird has just decided to try and perch outside my window, and I can see my roommate's cat from the other window because our windows literally face each other, and he is very interested, so it's going to be fun for me. Yeah, so you mentioned cutting down the trees. Like, you want to know what would have given you the same fucking result? A goddamn fucking ladder.
Yeah. Yes. No shit.
And the Lorax, like, comes up to Ted, and it's just like, the fuck, the one-slur. The Lorax comes up to the fucking one-slur and is just like, this is bad. And we're like, yeah, fucking thanks, movie. I get it. We're just shove this message down my throat a little bit more, but I need you to tell me it's bad because I, as an idiot, don't know that it's bad. Thank you. I'm angry.
You are reasonably angry. The only song in this movie I like is How Bad Can I Be? It's kind of catchy.
Yeah, no, okay. I'm actually thinking about it now, and once you said the title of the song, I can actually like think about the chorus of the song beyond just how it sounded. So I agree that the song is relatively catchy because a day later, after not remembering anything else about songs in this movie, remember that song.
Yeah, I guess I kind of like vaguely... I only remember the bad guys part in the final song, which we'll get to. At any rate.
Oh, yeah.
It annoys me so much how distinctly anti-capitalist this movie is because it's a soulless product for like 80% of it. And then it gets incisive for a minute. And I'm mad because it means that the people that worked on this had to have been aware of also what they were making.
Well, yeah, you kind of have to be.
Yeah. It's just like, it bothered me that they were aware enough to make the incisive jokes, but not aware enough to make a product that felt less soulless.
Speaking of soulless and just cramming things into... Yeah, so the Onceler and the Lorax is the B plot. And the A plot is coming back to fucking kick us in the ass here. Because the Onceler... Yeah, the Onceler has finally finished telling his story. And he finally understands the meaning behind the Lorax's last message of unless, and he gives Ted the last truffula seed in hopes that he can use it to regrow the forest and make others care about real trees again. Ted's desire to impress Audrey therefore becomes a personal mission to remind his town of the importance of nature. Just doing a full fucking 180 here, I guess. O'Hare, still determined to not have trees undercut his business, takes heavy-handed steps such as covering Audrey's nature paintings, because Audrey does nature paintings, by the way, closing off the door that Ted uses to see the Onceler, and forcibly searching Ted's room for the truffula tree seed, which has begun to grow after coming into contact with some water from Ted's falling water bottle. And Ted enlists his family and Audrey to help plant the seed, while O'Hare and two henchmen pursue them until they manage to elude him and reach the town center. So a lot fucking happens here. There's like a 20 fucking minute chase scene. Yeah.
That's it. There's nothing to even fucking talk about.
Sorry, real quick. I have a note that's like kind of down in the middle of this that I totally forgot about. I feel like Ted's mom is the voice of the poodle in Secret Life of Pets.
She probably is.
I'm looking it up real quick. Carry it.
So there's so much fucking plot summary and nothing happens. Just nothing happens. And I actively don't give a fuck about this last 30 minutes of the movie. I hate the romance. I hate it. It's nothing. There's nothing. They filled so much time with chase sequences because they ran out of things to do. And you see that also in the original 45-minute cut of the old 2D Lorax, where they also did not have enough story to fucking tell. They filled it with slow, monotonous music numbers that reused a lot of footage because it was the olden days and they didn't have any money to think of a new plot. But it's so obvious that the Lorax is a story that you need to either tell at a different pace by starting with the Onceler and showing his gradual corruption, rather than fucking starting it with the world being destroyed so we already know the punchline, then telling the middle, which is the interesting story, and then telling this end story that we don't care about because we spent no time with any of these characters. We don't know anything about Audrey but the fact that she likes trees. There's no reward here. We don't know anything about Ted because he wasn't in the chunk of the movie that anyone gives a shit about. Okay.
Yeah, I had definitely been reading webcomics for at least half of the movie, but I missed absolutely nothing. By the way, Ted's mom is voiced by Jenny Slate, who is in fact the voice of Gidget in Secret Life of Pets. And from the pictures I had to look up to determine who Gidget was, I am in fact correct. She is the poodle.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I care about. This movie, for being so anti-capitalist, pro-nature, is weirdly capitalist. Like this, it makes me mad. And speaking back to what you're talking about with the story and the structure, this movie has a decent message. I get it. It's a message that needs to be heard. We're all fucking destroying the environment. We're all gonna fucking die because we suck. And
yeah.
And capitalism is the root of all evil, essentially.
Yep.
But this is a mainstream movie distributed by a giant corporation. And I can't think of anything more capitalist than that.
It just is. Let's get through this.
Oh, wait. Audrey has a great line that she like basically just stands up in the middle of the town square. I don't remember the context for this. I just remember coming back to the movie for this one line. It's not a lie. It's called photosynthesis. I was like, thanks, Taylor Swift.
Good old T Swift. She really knocked it out of the park
T-Swift.
with her 10 lines in this.
I know, she worked real hard. That sweet paycheck.
Yeah. She probably got a whole cent from the fact that I rented this movie, so.
Yeah, that's sweet royalties, too.
Yeah. When Ted finally attempts to plant the seed, he's interrupted by O'Hare, who rallies the population to stop them by telling people that trees are extremely dangerous and filthy. To convince them otherwise, Ted takes an earth mover and rams down a section of the city wall to reveal the environmental destruction outside, thereby showing them what happened to the trees and what O'Hare is encouraging. Horrified at the sight and inspired by Ted's conviction, as though a part of the Lorax is within him. I think that's subtext on part of the person who wrote this plot summary. The crowd turns against O'Hare when they discover his true nature, with his own henchmen expelling him from the town with his jetpack helmet, and the seed is finally planted. Time passes and the land starts to recover. New trees sprout, the animals begin to return, and the redeemed, now mustached Onceler happily reunites with the Lorax, who just fucking comes down from heaven. Heaven re-yeets him back into the lives of the Onceler.
Okay.
How do these people breathe if they pay for bottled air? This thought occurred to me in the last 15 minutes of the movie, which...
I assume that they pay really, really high taxes, and that kind of covers their outdoor breathing air, and then they have inside breathing air for their private domiciles. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the conclusion that I came to the second that you said it, because I wrote, I have no idea. And then O'Hare in this final song, he's silent and he sings about it. And he starts doing the same like step touch, but he's clapping and he's just like, let it die, let it die. And I'm like, yes, let me fucking die, please.
I have 10 minutes left and I want to turn it off. Christ.
I had 11 minutes left. Like, I read your note and went, I should check how much longer I have left. And I had 11 minutes left. And I swear to God that we are either just like synced up mentally or we just get bored at the exact same moments in these movies.
I think it's just that we get bored. And then, of course, the note, another song, Christ.
Fucking step touching.
I think that I didn't pay attention during when the Lorax died, because my question is just, did the Lorax fucking die?
So the Lorax is not actually a living being. He is a tulpa, and tulpas are thought forms that are given shape by thinking about them. So if you think about something hard enough, you can make a physical representation of it. And thinking about the Lorax summons the Lorax, so the forest animals are what cause his first appearance. And then once all the trees and the animals are dead and he has no one left to think about him or have reason to think about him, his physical form can no longer be maintained, so he kind of just has to disappear into the ether. And then with the return of the trees and people thinking about trees, the thought form was once again strong enough to form a presence, and that is how the Lorax comes back. You are welcome.
How did more trees grow if they only had one seed? How is the Onceler still alive? These trees grow really fast.
No, okay, so trees are like covered in bullshit seeds and pollen, so like this truffula tree grows and it has more truffula seeds and it just like yeets the seeds into the world and fucking pollen everywhere, and I know this because I am very allergic to trees.
I have many questions. Did I write, did the Lorax fucking die again?
You did. You wrote, oh shit, the Lorax did fucking die. And then I correct you.
Because he came back.
Then I correct you and say that the thoughts that sustained him were not enough, so he disappeared into the zeitgeist of the world until the trees came back and he could have physical form once more.
I wanted the Lorax to come down from heaven and hold out his hand and go, can I offer you an egg in these trying times?
Someday, Danny DeVito will devour the moon, the ultimate egg, and then we will be plunged into darkness.
This film ends on a quote, I guess, from the original book.
Correct.
But I couldn't tell you what it was because it was on screen for 2.5 seconds.
It's the paragraph that leads up to the unless quote.
It was on screen for 2 seconds, though. It
Do you want me
wasn't
to
fast
find
enough for
it?
me to read. I don't care. I'm mad that past editing where it was on screen for not long enough for a normal person to read it. That's one of my biggest pet peeves in film editing is when text isn't on screen for long enough or it's too small to read.
It was, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously. But again, just mad because the editing. And also, we cut away from that quote for the minion fish to dance to a top 40 pop song.
Yeah, I actually watched through the credits to see if there was anybody I knew. So, unfortunately for me, I did stick around.
And?
Oh, I didn't know anybody. No. And I realized, because for whatever reason, I was getting Illumination mixed up with Sony while watching this movie. So I was like, wait, but I know so many people in Canada. And then we'll have to get into Illumination and the history behind it, because I was like, wow, these names are really, really French, but I thought they were based in Western Canada, once again, mistaking them for Sony, instead of Eastern Canada. And that was because right now in the visual effects industry, there's a huge push to make Montreal like big and relevant and have studios there, or hubs of larger studios there. So studios are being bought out, studios are relocating. So I was thinking Montreal for whatever reason, despite the fact that this movie came out 7 years ago. So I was a little bit confused as to the French names, but I do know a lot of artists from France, so I wouldn't have been surprised by seeing a name I recognized, but it would have been a slight surprise.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's it. I mean, that's it in the sense that we made it through this movie. This wasn't... It's like if cotton candy also didn't have flavor and you had to eat an entire 10-course meal of it.
Oh, no.
You're sitting there shoving cotton candy into your face. Like, I mean, this is okay, but I hate it.
No, it was so bad. It kind of actually, sorry, recapping. It's weird to me that I know somebody who worked on Delgo, but not somebody that worked on the Lorax. I mean, like, technically, I know Meledandri because he has been threatening the world with more Shrek, and everybody panicked that Illumination was going to infringe on DreamWorks, and that was a fucking riot for a little bit, where he was like, I want to make another Shrek movie, and everybody's like, whoa, what the fuck, you're with Illumination. Yeah, no, there's a lot going on. So, real quick, because I think understanding a little bit about the history of Illumination is kind of important here, and me making little digs at it will make a little bit more sense. So, this film was fully produced at the French studio Illumination MacGuff, which was the animation department of MacGuff, which was acquired by Illumination Entertainment in the summer of 2011, which puts it either during or right after the production of this film, because it came out in 2012, but I don't remember when in 2012. So I think it would be during or right at the production, like the start of production or mid-production, depending on the development. And yeah. Illumination is an American film and animation studio founded by Chris Meledandri in 2007. Illumination is owned by Universal Pictures, which is a division of NBC Universal, which is a division of Comcast. Companies have layers, much like onions or ogres. And I say that because in August of 2016, NBC acquired DreamWorks Animation. There was that huge big buyout and everybody was panicking about it. And they appointed Meledandri to oversee both studios, and people at DreamWorks were less than pleased. Is what I will say to that. And you can still kind of hear the dissent that pokes up every now and again when Chris Meledandri says something like, I'm going to make Shrek 5. And people are like, what? I'm sorry. What? It's been fun. So Meledandri produces these movies, and Universal finances and distributes them. But like I mentioned before, part of the deal is that Illumination retains creative control, and Illumination's feature-length animated films and all their short films are done by MacGuff Studios, which is now Illumination MacGuff, and that is located entirely in Paris. I mention once again that it's located in Paris because Meledandri prefers to keep Illumination adhering to a very low-cost model and is quoted as saying strict cost controls and hit animated films are not mutually exclusive. These movies are made for around $70 million. I would say they cap at 70. Lorax caps at 70. And in an industry where you can spend over $100 million on an animated film, Illumination's first two releases had a budget of $69 million for Despicable Me and $63 for Hop. I don't remember Hop at all.
Hop had Russell Brand in it.
Oh shit! It was the rabbit.
Yeah, he played the drums.
Yeah, got it. Okay. So
yeah, it's the one Illumination film that isn't fully animated.
I mean, MacGuff.
It's one of those. It's one of those fucking Smurfs movies.
MacGuff is, I believe, it's a VFX studio, and this was their like full animation department that was purchased out. So it makes sense to have that partnership, especially if Hop came out before the Lorax, so that would mean prior to. Anyway, doesn't matter. One of the ways that Illumination sustains a lean financial model is by employing foreign companies to save money because the films are totally outsourced and made elsewhere. Sorry. What I mean is that Illumination saves money by cutting corners. Sorry. Illumination saves money by using cost-conscious animation techniques that lower the expenses and render time of its computer graphics. I'd like to know how they do this, but that means I'd have to relocate to Paris, and for the sake of that podcast, I will do so should the opportunity arise.
Do they mean slave labor?
I cannot speak to how these films that are entirely outsourced to foreign countries are financed. Because I am not certain. The Lorax, for a $70 million budget, seemed to have a lot of people working on it. And I can only imagine that their corner cutting.
Yeah, yes, I agree with you.
I don't know. I don't want to say that these people got paid nothing because we cannot. Don't know. Yeah, I don't know that. But based on the budget and the amount of people and the look of this movie and knowing what I know about the render pipeline and basically I know, it's strange because I've worked in fucking render for like years. I was a render wrangler in college. I was a render wrangler for a VFX studio. I was like basically a junior render engineer for 3 years of my life. And I would like to know how they save money and render time for their computer graphics. Like, what are your cost-conscious techniques that save on render time? Because there's only so much you can do before. Like, maybe they don't have a physical render farm. Maybe it's all cloud-based so that they can spin it up when they need it, and they only use resources. They only consume the resources they need at any given time, is one of the things I can think of. But this is 2012, so this is kind of like before cloud render farms were actually big, especially, I mean, they're kind of making way in the States, but I don't know how it is in Europe.
No, and this was really before you could outsource a lot of your CG work to even more countries, because you can outsource again from Europe to, like, say, China or India, where the rate is even lower per hour.
Yeah, part of me feels like the film tax benefits in France kind of make up for that.
I forgot about that. You know, that's true, that some countries actually will help you make artistic products via money. Yeah,
so there's actually, I want to say there's a tax rebate for international films, but I would need to look it up. But I feel like France, they do. Okay, they have a tax rebate for international production.
Huh.
But let's see. They support non-French projects that are completely or partially made in France. To be eligible, projects must pass a cultural test which assesses European cultural elements in the story, as well as French and European locations, characters, sources, landmarks, creators, crew, and French technical hubs. For live action, there's a necessary minimum of 5 days of shooting in France. For animated productions and VFX-intensive productions, there's a dedicated cultural test acknowledging the specifics of the genre.
I don't think that this would pass that.
For animation?
Yeah, I mean, would. There's nothing... Wait, yeah, what
it's a fully animated production. I would need to know about their tests, but they have, like I just read it. They have a dedicated cultural test, but they acknowledge the specifics of the genre.
Oh,
so like an animated movie is going to be different than like some of the effects for Game of Thrones, you know, like shit like that.
Yeah, and I mean, I could see this getting a pass because it's based off of existing work and has a, like, positive message. Big quotes here, positive message. I feel like that helps it a lot in terms of getting funding. It's also a universal film and is not set in America either. You know, it's not set anywhere real, which I feel like, again, is another point in its favor.
The amount allocated compromises 30% of the film's eligible expenditures incurred in France and caps at 30 million euros per project. They need a contract with a French company and or the making of the animation or VFX shots be a production service agreement. Okay.
Okay.
So now we know why these are made in France.
What?
Could they get a sick tax rebate? What was 30 million euros in 2012?
I don't know. That's a great question.
I'm looking it up right now. Sorry.
She's looking it up.
This got super technical in a hot second, and for that I only vaguely apologize for.
I don't know what the people come to our podcast for. Y'all
yeah, what the fuck, guys?
The people that listen to this, I don't know what you're here for. Are you here for us?
I don't know. Are you?
I feel like most of our listeners are people that I've just personally foisted the podcast upon because I do bring it up at any given moment. And I'm like, I host a podcast. This is my only hobby.
30 million euros looks to be around 22 million and 24 million US dollars in 2012. Based on like a quarter system.
Oh, okay.
The more you know. Like, we can make this podcast really fucking technical and I can just deep dive into animation production, but I feel like that's not what people come here for. I feel like they come here for two girls swearing at movies.
Oh, man. You know, honestly, it's a genre that hasn't been explored a lot yet. We're not talking about murder, which puts us right at the forefront of female podcasts.
Yeah, what the fuck? We should watch more movies about murder.
We should just talk about murder.
Are there a lot of animated movies about murder?
No,
I don't
not
think
really.
So.
I mean, the Lorax fucking died.
The Lorax did not die. The Lorax is a tulpa. I will stand by that. I refuse. I also just really, really wanted to bring weird conspiracy theory into our episode about the Lorax.
I'm glad that you didn't ask me to talk about tulpas, because I can say a lot about tulpas, but it's embarrassing.
What the fuck do you know about tulpas?
There's a whole thing for a while in like with the people who watch My Little Pony about tulpas.
Are you kidding me?
No.
That's not. No, please. Okay, you have to tell me this off the podcast.
Okay, are you sure? We can edit it. No. Okay.
Hey, fuckers, you want to hear about My Little Fucking Pony on the Lorax episode? I bet you do.
You've already been here for an hour and 16 minutes. What's
Holy
another
shit.
20 of your time, right?
Are you... Seriously?
Yeah.
All right, fucking go. Let's go. Oop, I hit my mic. Sorry, let's go.
Wait, are we really? Okay. Instead of a fake ad read this week, you're getting the story of the My Little Pony tulpas. Please feel free to tune out if you're done. This has been Animated Opinions. I'm Melanie.
I'm Emily. Let me fucking hear about these animated pony tulpas.
Bonus content! Pew, pew, pew.
Ooh, hey,
So
what up? Hold on. What up, fuckers? If we ever make a Patreon, this shit is gonna be like paywall protected. So enjoy this sneak preview of My Little Pony lore.
Honestly, you know what? Yeah, if you enjoyed this more than the regular podcast and would pay $1 for it, we will gladly talk about internet garbage for
Like, comment, and
$1.
subscribe.
Not even kidding. Also, if you're a listener from our parent network, Topless Robot, you probably like this more than our podcast. So congratulations, you. You found a hidden gem.
Yeah, you just gotta go all the way to the end of the podcast for it.
Yeah, you really gotta be dedicated. Maybe we'll just cut this out and post it separately. Who
Woo!
knows? Who knows?
Bonus content!
My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, premiered in 2010, right before we graduated high school and went to college. Around 2014, the brony craze was at an all-time high, and plenty of sad men were watching this and imagining their wife who would be a happy pony who loved them no matter what. And this led to a lot of even sadder men working together to figure out a way to make a very real imaginary friend. The pony tulpas, unironically what it was called. These threads got scary. I'm talking, like, initially it was like, oh, well, you gotta think about her every night and you gotta make a big deal out of it and all this stuff. And then slowly, guys would come in and talk about how they fucked up or how scary their pony tulpa was. One in particular described his tulpa as, I want to say, underbaked, where he managed to create the tulpa, but it was just constantly screaming. It didn't do anything else. It just screamed and seemed like it was in pain, and he came for help removing it. Others made tulpas that only kind of worked, or that were missing parts, or missing key personality elements and didn't understand how to fix this. Mind you, all a tulpa is a very, very thought about imaginary friend. It's not real. You're just imagining
tulpas are very real.
Emily.
Slenderman's a tulpa.
Slenderman is a something awful Photoshop that caused teenage girls to stab each other.
All right. So tulpas are a concept. We need to deep dive a little bit more here. Tulpas are actually a concept around, like, in the paranormal realm, and it's just a being or an object that you create through spiritual or mental powers. And it's from a Tibetan word that means manifestation. And modern practitioners will use the term to refer to a type of willed imaginary creation, and then they consider it to be sentient and autonomous.
Yeah, but it's just your imagination.
Yeah, but like they're their own thing. Once you create a tulpa, once you've got that thought form, it's gone. It's not yours anymore. It'll fucking murder you.
Okay.
Tulpas are evil. Tulpas are evil. Listen to my podcast. Listen to last podcast on the left for more information about tulpas, because it's fucking hilarious, but also terrifying, and gave me nightmares. I like that we have plugged 2 other podcasts now. Podcasts run by all men about occult shit and movies.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that we aspire to be the greats and also to have the penises of the greats.
Yeah, I just want a huge dick.
Wow. Okay, Emily.
What?
It's true, but beyond the point.
Yeah, whatever. Sometimes you just want a huge swinging dick to prove your I was trying to
prove
think
your
about it.
Dickitude.
Well, like, if I had a dick, I would do so much better in my career because people would respect me and my opinions and not try to mansplain VFX to me on fucking Twitter.
At least you haven't had someone try and mansplain the concept of your own podcast to you.
Oh my god, what? Yeah, it's because I don't fucking tell people I have a podcast.
This is one of my favorite parts of myself. Multiple men have tried to suggest episodes for us to do, and every time I'm like, we've already done Food Fight, or like, we've both seen Food Fight enough times. Like,
yeah, we've both seen Food Fight enough times, and we also love Food Fight.
Yeah, like, oh god, there's so, and or they'll bring up something that was like recently a meme, and I'm like, that's great. I'm really glad that you told me about a meme that I already knew about.
Yeah, I'm glad that you are on Twitter or Reddit. Like, good job. Good for you.
Yeah, it's totally Reddit. It's always Reddit.
Fucking men. God,
fucking men.
Fucking men. This has been Animated Opinions.
Yeah!
And we have animated opinions about men.
We do. I'm not sorry about it.
That's where we're
when
cutting
are we gonna
it.
come out with our Zuby vines?
Oh my god! Animated Opinions is now entirely Zubies.
Honestly, I think it would improve our format.
Honestly, I think anything would improve our format up to and including just not doing the podcast anymore.
Yeah, this podcast is now canceled. This is the last episode. Congratulations.
Fucking fuck. I'm Emily.
I'm Melanie.
Fuck.
Bye.
Bye.